Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Friday, the 22nd of October, comes to you from London. And we're seeing more green on the screen this morning, so market sentiment's improved, taken Evergrande in its stride. We saw the futures down yesterday in the US market, but in fact the S&P 500 actually managed to claw it back. So we start by looking at the dollar index. It seems to have found a floor at this 93.50 level. We've got good upside targets on the short-term chart. This is the weekly, daily and 60-minute. My long-term, medium-term and short-term view of the market, of course, if we're above the cloud, we're bullish. If we're below the cloud, we're bearish, and the corresponding point and figure targets. So we've got this 6 charts in a view. I just get a very quick view of the market. So we see here that the dollar trend continues. So we've fallen back a little bit this week, but the trend is still very much up on the medium term. That means that the euro is still in that downtrend, and we're just starting to see it hit resistance there at about 116.50 and now falling away again. So 116.70, sorry, and now falling away again. Sterling sitting at 137.92, just holding its position against the dollar, and it has had a strong week against the euro, just falling back slightly at the moment. 118.70 is resistance there for sterling against the euro, but sterling does have the upper hand, having made an 18-month high there. Looking at Bitcoin, we're sitting at $63,000. We pulled back a little bit, but we did make a new all-time high. It's interesting, it's locked this column now, so it'll be interesting to see where we go, but 83,000 is really the target at the moment, and that's on both charts, so there's quite a lot of credence to that. Look at the S&P 500 index. We recovered yesterday, and we see that last few hours we just ticked up higher. So taking that in stride, we're just on the verge there of making new highs. So that's looking quite strong. And the Nasdaq also not yet making new highs, but still looking pretty strong. The futures are down very slightly this morning. The Nasdaq futures down a bit more, but really the market, the best we could say is that it would open flat today. The VIX volatility sitting at 15, so still historically low on the fear index versus where we were any time over the past year. FTSE futures up 0.4% this morning, the DAX in Germany up 0.37%, and the CAC 40 in Paris up 1%. That market's starting to look quite good again, having broken above the cloud, and we're bullish on all 3 time frames. So equity markets still look strong, taking inflation woes in their stride. So no signs yet really of a sell-off. Japan was up very slightly. The Hang Seng, where Evergrande is listed, still looking okay. It actually has had a pretty good week, and again markets tend to be fearful ahead of the event, and then we see that recovery out of that. We'll take a look at the energy mix in a minute. We first of all just look at some soft commodities. Wheat is something we're keeping a close eye on, and we are just seeing that getting ready for a breakout. So getting quite close there with good upside targets, up 1% this morning. Gold is up 0.5%, silver up 0.8%, so we are seeing it clawing back towards that previous resistance. 1800 is a pretty critical level for gold. US 10-year yield sitting at 1.69%, just edging higher. We did nudge at 170 last night, so we are just pushing towards those 179, 175 targets. And that, of course, will be news when we see the bond market making new 18-month highs. Looking at the energy mix, we've got Brent Crude up slightly this morning, very much stuck in a range at the moment, so that's quite key there. We can see here the levels, so very much stuck in that 84, 86 range at the moment. Looking at US nat gas sitting at 518, pretty much in the doldrums. Hit the bottom this week, but has actually recovered a little bit there. We look at coal sitting at 122, so pulled back there. That's quite key. And emissions up 2.5%. So quite a good bounce on the cloud there for emissions, and we've got these targets to 62.20, 64 activated. So it looks like we will go some 4.5% higher there on that short-term chart. So a bit of a turnaround there this week. MVP, looking at recovery there, we were up 2% this morning, but very much in this range, and that's what we've got to watch. We've got targets in both directions. The key thing is the lower low, of course. And US nat gas Dutch gas TTF again. We've just got to watch for that break of €80. We've got downside targets suggesting mid-80s, so we are very much stuck in this range at the moment, and a break from that range will be key. Doesn't look like it'll happen this week, so maybe next week. We've just got to watch the targets. German power also just on the verge of activating an upside target to 134, but this 120 level now quite critical as well. That's it for today. Until Monday, have a great weekend. Happy charting. See you then.